you like to heal your inner child? Christina Prokos will tell us how to do this. And what's so special about Christina is she is an intuitive life and spiritual coach and a shaman whose work blends inner child healing, shadow work, and the energetic abilities she's had since early childhood. So, Christina, tell us about what does it mean to heal your inner child and the impact on someone's ability to feel safe. And the reason I ask you this is because I remember when I was a really young child, my grandma used to beat me and she used to say I was stupid, ugly, and fat. And I grew up with this, you can say, belief that the world was unsafe. And to some extent, I can say that I still feel that. Okay, like I still feel like the world is scary, but I have gradually kind of started to focus on other things, like, everything works out for me and I'm having a lot of fun and I'm attracting everything I need. But I can't seem to still shake off that feeling that still the world is scary, therefore the world is unsafe. And from that perspective, there are certain things that perhaps I would avoid doing. And there's also certain things that perhaps my body is trying to protect me from. For example, when I'm organizing a large event, I get sick and I get a sore throat and migraine. And I think it's my body trying to say, like this situation isn't safe for you, therefore you shouldn't do it. And therefore I'm going to protect you by making you ill. And of course, this never works. So tell us about how healing your inner child could actually lead to a feeling of safety and attracting more of what you want in your life.
Heal Podcast with Lily Patrascu shares longevity and anti-aging techniques to stay young forever, increase energy, overcome addiction, and live your longest, best life ever. Shared by world's most innovative, alternative, and traditional health thought leaders, healers, and doctors. Discover quantum healing strategies to heal your mind, body, and soul.
First, I just want to start off by saying that's really hard that you went through that in your childhood, having someone that you loved and wanted to feel safe with and wanted to feel regulated with abused you to that degree and punished you to that degree. And when we're looking at inner child wounds, we're looking at the need to validate the experiences of what have happened in our childhood experiences in order for us to then educate ourselves enough to gain enough context around how we're going to learn to regulate ourselves so that we do feel safe enough, so that we can go out into the world and not think of it as someone or something is going to abuse us. Because in our core foundation, in our environment from our childhood, that's what we're learning all our fundamental experiences, our belief systems, our adaptations, the way we're navigating in our family dynamics. And unfortunately, if we were byproducts of a lot of trauma and abuse and the constant reiteration that you're not good enough, that you're not valued, that you're not seen, that you're not heard, that you're being put down all the time. These are bruises and wounds within us. And no matter how much we think we know, how educated we are, no matter what we think we've understood about ourselves, those wounds still are holding a specific energy and frequency. And when we're about to go into the direction of creating an experience of joy or connection or an opportunity for something bigger for ourselves so that we can really validate our experiences overall, that inner child's going to come up and say, I'm not ready for that. I can't do that. I can't feel that shame. I can't feel that rejection. I can't feel all the things that I've already gone through. You have also not made me feel safe enough to go into the direction of creating the new joyful experience. So inner child work really is about learning the core foundation, about leaning into our inner wounds, giving it context, integrating those aspects of ourselves, the fragmented parts due to the trauma, and giving us the opportunity to regulate our nervous system and change the way we form our thoughts, beliefs, and experiences in our reality. It's our opportunity to really gain more insight. And the better we are connecting to the inner child, like for instance, you going towards the big event and creating the big experience. If you're naturally going to recognize the pattern that every time I go into the direction of creating something new, I fall sick, then I have to do everything in my power and my experience to nurture and take care of myself and make sure I'm grounded and that I'm educating my inner child that they are nurtured, safe, and that this is going to be a joyful experience for us to have. And it's a lot through visualization. It's a lot through meditation. It's a lot through even just sitting and journaling and connecting with your inner child that you can create that language, that conversation with them first, so that they could start to trust you enough to know that you're now reparenting them, that it isn't your grandmother that's still having that effect on them. It's you that's having the effect on them, and that you're giving them the safety and the opportunity to look at something from a different perspective. You know, it's so easy to self-abandon. Like, you know, we get so busy. You know, you're organizing a big event, you're doing the big thing, you're creating the big experience. You can self-abandon and dysregulate yourself due to all the stressors. So it's important to check in with your inner child consistently and bridge that gap between what was to where you're heading. It's really important to start that conversation in that language so that you're developing the trust to create the safety.
Thank you. Tell me about what do I need to do so that I can stop manifesting the illness as well? Because let's say I could take time to relax, to go in nature, to exercise, to dance. And I mean, I have done that, you know, but I would say often when you have like a really large event, there isn't that much time to actually focus on yourself.
100%. Yep.
You have to focus on hundreds of other people and their experience. And sometimes, let's say I haven't slept for days or I've slept little for days. And then it's so important that every single person feels loved and cared for. And I would say that I would put myself on the back burner for a long time. But even if, let's say, I tried to do, you know, swimming and dancing and whatever, I still don't know how to stop my body actually get sick. Because regardless of like how much I prepare, I'm noticing that at every single event, you know, I would like ideally to appear like Taylor Swift, you know, like how she appears in front of 100,000 people. It's like no problem. She looks like a princess. She looks glamorous and she does an amazing job. But I think you have to be like such a mentally tough kind of person to be able to do that and not get affected. And I'm wondering about what does it take to become almost like this awakened titan like she is, in the sense of just trusting that everyone else is going to handle all the difficult things, the actual concert and the event management and everything. Because I've noticed, for example, the very last event that I organized, it had hundreds of people. I did feel a little bit more relaxed because I had an event manager for the very first time. And normally I'm the event manager. But at the same time as being the event manager at the last event, I was also the singer, the presenter, you know, bringing everyone, you know, selling all the tickets. People couldn't get in at some point and they were texting me. So it was just like very overwhelming. But I still managed to do a much better job because I had help. And, you know, this event manager managed to really keep everyone in line, almost like in the army. He was like the general and they were in the army, and it worked out quite well. But I was still sick, you know, like I was still sick. I had migraine, and you can say that I did what I always did, which is put on a brave face and pretended like everything was okay, but it's never okay. And I don't know how to make it okay. Like, how do I stop getting sick? How do I heal my inner child so much so that I manifest wellness and health ahead of an event where I have to perform?
So you're looking at multiple facets here. So you're comparing yourself to a high energy type of person whose nervous system is attuned to, for instance, Taylor Swift's nervous system is attuned to a specific type of frequency. So her nervous system embodies safety. And if you looked at her documentaries, you could see that her relationship with her mother is very solid. And your relationship with your mother is going to define the level of safety that you have and the capacity for you to feel nurtured, safe, and not feel self-abandoned or self-betrayed. You said some interesting things as you were communicating. The one aspect, you have a contradictory belief system. So you have a belief system that's very ingrained in you, that you have to people please. So innately your energy is going to go into, I have to overgive and I have to overdo to make sure that everybody is feeling the experience that I want them to have, so that they accept me, love me, and not reject me. which comes tied to pretty much the abuse aspect of things. So you could see how that belief system is leading in your life, and it's just perpetuating the language of abuse. Okay? Then the other aspect is that, which is amazing because you actually got someone to come in and support you through that process. I don't know how you are with scarcity mindset, where it's like, do you worry about not having enough money, not having enough of those experiences? And sometimes, again, with the people pleasing and the scarcity mindset, which goes into the unsafety, means I play almost not the victim to your circumstances, but the victim narrative that it has to come through me. I'm the only source. There's nobody else that can do it but me. And so even those types of belief systems keep you in the abuse. Okay. So what you're doing is you're beating yourself up as you think you're creating the experience that you want to have. And when you do that, what starts to occur is, imagine you're beating yourself up. What are you doing? You keep pushing and lowering your energy and hurting yourself. And then obviously you're going to get sick because your belief system is attuned to that experience. The other perspective that you offered was that you have put it in your mind that you have to be mentally strong, which means that you weren't allowed to discuss what was going on behind closed doors in your childhood. You had to put on a smile, put on a facade, put on whatever, and go out there and not show what was really going on, the abuse and the experiences that you're having. So that immediately is a contradiction to yourself and to your true, authentic being. Because now we're going, well, these are the only people that I have in my environment from my childhood that are going to keep me safe to the degree that I know and what I've normalized. I can't show people what's going on here. I have to show up and be the strong character, the strong person that is capable of creating a better outcome in the experiences. Both those perspectives will lead you to migraines, will lead you to a state of resistance. Because authentically, you just want to show up as yourself, calm, regulated, grounded, which means if it doesn't go at a 110%, that's fine. Doesn't mean I did something good. Doesn't mean I did something bad. If people didn't like the experience, that doesn't define who I am. I'm doing the best that I can. You're not going in with that type of energy. You're going in with fear, limitation, scarcity, and abuse, which is going to take you down every single time. So, you're right when people start the conversation of like, oh, inner child joy. You need to go hit the gym, go do something fun, go get your energy moving. All those things are fantastic. Okay. Absolutely, I would say incorporate as much joy as you can. Go out in nature as much as you can. But that's not going to resolve the patterns of abuse that exist within you and what you've learned as your own personal conditioning. And so what starts to happen here is you need to, like I said to you, it's a simple conversation of like, I'm going on stage and I'm going to tell my inner child, I'm not here to please everybody. You're safe enough to show up how you want to show up. Immediately that kind of centers the body because now we've let go of the pressure. The inner child doesn't have to show up with that pressure, that perfectionism, that hardness. We're just, hey, it's okay. It's no different than if you had a little kid standing in front of a concert, right? And now it's the first time that they're experiencing a big audience and, they were working so hard on their lines and their experience, but they froze on stage. How would you talk to that child? What would you tell that child? How would you validate their experience and say, it's okay. I'm here for you. You didn't do something wrong. It's okay for you to feel the way you're feeling. Validation is number one. Number two, again, it's just the conversation of like, this could be fun for us. Why don't we go on here and let go of the pressure and just enjoy the experience that we're having? It doesn't have to be so complicated. And then, of course, I would say that if it's consistently happening, then we would have to do integrative work. We'd have to go revisit the inner child through shadow work and through shamanic processes where we could integrate that inner child into safe space. So I will give you guys a little bit of a context so you can understand what a safe space looks like. Through visualization or through intention or through a sensory experience, because a lot of people, like I mentioned, don't have the ability to just visualize things. There's different languages that we learn from. different ways that we learn. And so what I would recommend is people create an environment that's safe so that you could then say, okay, inner child, let's go into the safe space together. You could visualize it to be a garden, a beach. It could be a physical environment that you go visit to in your own home space where you sit and you write. That you are creating an energy, a habit of bringing your inner child from the unsafety into safety. Small little step. And you could be doing that while you're on stage. You don't have to just sit and I would say start a practice before you get on stage, maybe 10 minutes before you get on stage. You tell your inner child, you're safe, I'm here, I'm visualizing whatever it is that's going on with you, and then you're integrating that process as you're going forward. But your contradictions in your belief systems are what's causing you to get into that pattern of sickness.
Thank you. I've noticed, for example, because I organize a lot of large events and small events as well. And what I've discovered is that in smaller events, I feel more at ease and I'm more relaxed. But I have also presented at events of other people where I feel like there's nothing at stake, could just have fun and nothing will happen, right? And I noticed, for example, I presented this event that was like a film premiere where I was featured as an extra, as a film actress. And I had so much fun, using my sensual voices, and having a little bit of fun. And everyone was laughing out loud, everyone was having so much fun. And I can't say that I got any clients at all from that particular event, but I personally enjoyed that experience so much. And I do think every single person there enjoyed it as well. And if you looked at the video, you would see this is the most relaxed I've ever been. And at the same time, there's the contradictory experience when I was 4 years old, and I remember freezing on stage and not remembering what I say. And actually, every time I need to sing, even now, for example, because I sing sometimes for the band, I often forget my lines. And it's not something I've managed to overcome, So I'm wondering, is there space for someone like me who has gone through so much trauma to become a person like Taylor Swift with the kind of techniques and the techniques that you mentioned? Or is it the case that I can just get used to the fact that I'll never reach that level because I don't have the foundation? I don't have the safety that should have been created when I was really young.
I think both are true. You have to understand that you could develop the skill set to get to that level to do the thing. And yes, due to your childhood experience, there is a level of unsafety that comes with that. But what I'm hearing too with your energy is the pressure and the perfectionism. And that is so ingrained in you. So how you said, it was a smaller capacity, a smaller room. It was more controlled. I could feel more regulated in it. It didn't feel so overwhelming at the capacity of what Taylor Swift would operate as, because she's not thinking about pleasing. She's not thinking about being perfect. She's just being herself, right? And then she has her process, whatever that process is. I don't know what it is, but she has her own process. That doesn't mean you couldn't develop that skill set. It just means that your nervous system has to learn how to get there. But my question to you is that what you really want? And if that's something you really want, what are you willing and how much energy and time are you willing to put into something like that? What are you also willing to give up? You also have to look at those experiences as well. How have you designed your life around attachment and control and needing to be at the level of control? And what type of contingencies have you put in place so that you have a false sense of safety? Are you willing to have what I refer to as a dark night of the soul or a tower moment where all of it is stripped away from you? How would that make you feel? Because there's an initiation process that goes consistently in leveling up if you look at it even from a career perspective, that you started somewhere and then there was hardships and opportunities to learn other aspects of yourself. And then there was another layer and then another layer and then another layer of whatever your experiences are. And you've grown attached to even your image, the way that you're operating, your own view of what perfectionism looks like. Are you willing to change all of that? So if you want to attune your nervous system to a different energy, a safety, the embodiment of safety, it's an opportunity for you to revisit your 4-year-old version on stage and give her the validation and the support that she needs to integrate, bring her back home to you, safe enough for her to feel 1,000 or 20,000 or 100,000 people, and she'll never stammer again, right? So if you were just to sit through visualization and, again, the shamanic process is a whole different thing. Like if we were doing a one-on-one, I would walk you. That's why I brought up originally that whole stage thing, because I saw it in your energy where there was a little girl sitting on stage and she just couldn't perform the words, right? And so I was like, okay, this is age 4 where it's starting from. But through your abuse and through your trauma, you've learned that you have to put on a persona, a way of operating so that you're safe. Are you willing to also let go of that, right? If you let go of even the persona of that, then who are you without all of that? Are you safe enough to show up and hold the capacity of whatever it is without the people pleasing and the perfectionism as well? Does that make sense?
Yes, it makes sense. Tell me also about, for example, in certain business relationships, I've noticed often feeling like I was a child in a corner being punished. Almost like I noticed like I didn't feel appreciated in some relationships. And I felt almost like that same kind of feeling that my grandma used to give me when she used to like put me to punish me in a corner and wait for my punishment to happen. And even I remember a very embarrassing moment where she punished me for peeing myself at the age of 10 in bed. And I mean, I peed myself because I was afraid of her. And then she stripped me naked and put me in front of the house. And she had me wait there like for 10 hours naked in front of the house. And then until my grandpa came to, let me in. And so it feels very much like that. Like sometimes in certain relationships, I felt like I was underappreciated, and there was like a big level of shame and shame because perhaps we didn't do what they wanted, guilt because I didn't please them enough. And there were other relationships where I felt so appreciated. And even it was mainly people that were actually paying a lot more and faster, and they were so kind. And so there's this dichotomy of like, really amazing people that really appreciated me and treated me really well. And there were others that were like cruel, like properly cruel. And even if, let's say, I promised them one thing and then they wanted 100 times more, and I would give them 1,000 times more, and they were still not happy. So how do I change this kind of relationship? By healing my inner child.
With this concept, I would say you need to have clearer boundaries, right? So you have to register that. You have to use a little bit of discernment to say, okay, this reminds me a lot of my grandmother's energy, and therefore I'm not going towards that direction. In order to change that pattern, you have to recognize it. You have to show up in your reality, in your world, and register, I'm going to attract abuse because that's all I know. And there's going to be glimpses of kindness in my reality because maybe in my childhood, there were glimpses of someone actually showed up and was kind to me. We live in a world of duality no matter what. And so whenever something negative shows up, it's just the shadow part of my trauma that keeps showing up as a pattern, as an opportunity for me to do something different. And that's the way the inner child's trying to communicate to me right now by telling me, hey, maybe subconsciously you're being really mean to yourself. You're putting yourself down. Your low self-esteem is kicking in right now. Your inner child's like, I don't feel worthy. I don't feel valued. I don't feel appreciated. But you're leading with the people pleasing and you're leading with the perfectionism. It's innate by laws of attraction for you to attract unkind people because you want them to accept you. You want a sense of belonging because that feels familiar from your childhood. It is exactly what you wanted from your grandmother. Like, if I could just be perfect for her, if I could just do the thing that she wanted me to do, she would no longer hurt me. And this is such a huge reiteration that we operate with in our lives. Everybody does this. Why do we keep going towards people and experiences that reject us consistently instead of moving towards relationships that just feel accepted, kind, and a sense of regulation? We don't know any different. We only know what we know until we become aware of it enough for us to say that pattern is not going to exist in my reality anymore. And no longer will I want that type of energy and validation in my experiences. Doesn't matter what they offer me. Doesn't matter what they offer me. Doesn't matter if they tell me that they're going to give me all of these opportunities. If that person's energy is similar to how my grandmother's energy is, they're going to hurt me. They're going to punish me, even if they're offering me opportunities. And so discernment and boundaries, huge safety tools for us as protecting ourselves and our inner child. And then, okay, if I'm constantly bringing in this pattern, this cyclical issue, I have to stop everything I'm doing and I have to come back to myself and my inner child. And I have to ask myself, what steps and measures am I going to put in place now so that I'm not aligning with this experience anymore? And like I said, we're so accustomed to going towards the abusers because we want them to love us. And we think if we can resolve that conflict in someone like that, then we're resolving the conflict internally within ourselves. We think it's a challenge. We think it's an opportunity. How many women do we know that get into abusive cyclical patterns with men and or relationships in general, where we're like, oh, I saw the potential in the person. I ignored the red flags. It's because you're trying to resolve internal conflicts from your childhood in that person and in that experience. Okay, maybe once or twice you're going to go down that road. But 5, 10 times? How many more times are you going to keep repeating that pattern? You have to assess your experiences and register that there's an aspect of you that has to take accountability for your choices. And then say to yourself that you have the ability to reframe the way that you operate so that you could regulate yourself enough to say, no, I'm not going down that path again, even if it feels painful. Because what are you trying to avoid at the end of the day? You are trying to avoid pain. You're trying to avoid abuse, but you keep going towards it regardless because you think that if you just resolve it, you will be rewarded. They will see you. They will value you. They will understand you. And it never really works out that way. It doesn't, unfortunately.
Thank you. What can I do to reframe what's familiar to me so that positive experiences and positive people are magnetized towards me and I accept those kind of people and experiences and I don't put them away? Because I've noticed as well what I do sometimes is great people and great opportunities come to me and somehow I reject them, or I don't send the proposal in time, or I do certain things to self-sabotage. How can I make the positive experiences and positive people the new familiar and reject those kind of experiences that are terrible for me? How can I become this energetic alignment for amazing stuff, only amazing stuff to happen to me?
Well, I think that's unrealistic. Let's call it for what it actually is. I think that, again, we live in a world of duality. So good and bad needs to show up, or lessons need to show up for opportunity for growth. If I don't have any contrast in my life, then I'm never really going to develop my character and understand who I really am. And you're going to make mistakes. Again, the belief system that you're operating with when it comes to perfectionism doesn't want to make the mistake. Okay. It doesn't want to feel the experience, the abuse. So the reframe here has to be like, I'm allowed to make mistakes. And if I make mistakes, I'm not going to be punished. That's the reframe. Okay. I'm allowed to make mistakes and that's okay. I won't get punished for making a mistake. If you just start leading your life with that one reframe, it's going to move you closer towards relationships that make you feel safe enough to have choice, safe enough for you to assess what's right or wrong for you, safe enough for you to feel like, oh, do I want to take that opportunity? Is this good for me right now? It's okay if I make a mistake. If I don't take it, it's okay. If I took it, okay, I learned a lesson from that. Or wow, that's exactly what I needed. What I'm reading off of your energy is that it's got to show up in a specific way, and you've got to perform in a specific way, and it's got to make it look like something of value or of worth. And you cannot make a mistake. So when things are given to you from people who are really kind, you think it's too easy. You think that there's an underlying motivation there. You don't believe that it could just show up in a way where hey, there's no ulterior motive here. There's no someone's going to take something from me. I don't have to fight something. It's too easy. It seems too easy. Easy is the way that you want to go to a degree, but I would say the number one reframe for you is it's okay to make a mistake and that you have choice. Start with that, because your rejection wound and your shame is huge, right? Vulnerability for you is a very big thing. You were literally stripped naked and exposed. You haven't healed that trauma. You haven't figured out what that feels like for you. And so vulnerability, exposing that layer for yourself is really big. So start small. The small reframe is going to go a long way with it's okay for me to make mistakes and it's okay for me to have a choice. That doesn't take away from like exposing yourself and being all open and like putting yourself in a situation where you're going to re-wound yourself. Got to start off small and incrementally, and you got to prove to yourself that I made the mistake and no one punished me. That one little thing right now matters above anything else that you're going to do, because all you know is the conditioning of I made the mistake, I get punished. I make a mistake, I get punished. And then that exposes vulnerability, that exposes shame, that exposes all the other aspects of whatever my trauma was. Versus, I made a mistake, that's okay, nobody punished me. No, I'm not, it's okay, we're okay. Do you understand like how that small regulation, that small reframe is gonna lead you towards relationships that are gonna start the conversation around choice and safety?
Thank you. Tell me about how can someone heal the guilt that they would experience when, let's say, they are operating generally as a perfectionist. Because let's say I organize a large event and then there's the shame of not doing the event perfectly or not satisfying everyone to 100%. And the guilt that comes from that as well. And sometimes I find that after an event, even if nobody said I didn't have a good time, I start beating myself up thinking about, oh, I forgot person's name. Because, for example, I remember at the last event, I was unable to print everyone's bios and I had to introduce everyone and I had to remember what they were called. And there were some people that were brand new that I hadn't seen before. And I had to like just basically memorize all of their names. And there were hundreds of them. And I luckily managed to do a really good job for all of them. But I think there was one or two people that I couldn't remember what their name was. And I couldn't remember what they did as well. So I couldn't like properly introduce them. I really beat myself up about it. And I remember that at every event that I do, and regardless if it's small or big, I need maybe, I would say, at least 3 months to hide after it out of shame and the guilt that I get from not performing 100%. It's almost like I need to hide from social media because I need to pity myself. So how can I stop this kind of pattern of guilt and shame?
Well, I think it goes back to a little bit of that reframe that I'm hearing right now, is that you made a mistake and you're not giving yourself the permission to be okay with that mistake. And when we talk about guilt, we talk about, you know, this idea that we're a really bad person, that the reason why we feel so much guilt is because if I choose myself, or if I make the choice, or if I make the mistake and now someone's upset with me, that makes me a really bad person. Whereas like if I was in your position and I was sitting in front of a group of people and I couldn't print out everyone's bio, I would have been like, hey guys, nice to see you all. This is amazing. I just want to let you know that unfortunately, I don't have everyone's bio down here. This is a great opportunity for you guys to come up on stage, introduce yourselves the way that you guys want to be introduced. Like I would have posed it in a completely different light and I would have offloaded the responsibility of that. And then if someone got offended with that, I probably wouldn't have cared. I would have been like, things happen, mistakes happen. Like there's nothing I can do about that. But because in that moment, you dysregulated yourself so much, you self-punished, you felt like this horrible human being because you made this small little mistake. It was a small little mistake. It wasn't like the end of the world, you know? But when people are operating with shame and guilt, they do feel like it's the end of the world. Oh my God, it's the worst thing that could ever happen. I'm the worst human being. How could I do that? How can I make someone else feel so terrible that I didn't do my due diligence? I didn't take my time to, you know, show them that I value them and I care about them. That has nothing to do with the printer not working. That has everything to do with the mindset that you have, right? You have to learn how to pivot You have to learn how to get into situations and be able to be solution oriented and find humor in the situation as well. Because sometimes we don't give ourselves the permission to do that. We think we have to abide by some professionalism, or we have to show up in a specific light because if I don't do it right, I'm going to get punished. And mistakes happen. So again, the reframe is, you want to get out of guilt, you have to learn how to pivot, be solution oriented, find the humor, because there's no such thing as a bad person unless you've gone out of your way to do something really, really bad and malicious towards someone else, which, by the way, your grandmother should have felt so much guilt and remorse for how she treated you, and she didn't. That's where the guilt belongs. It doesn't belong to you. You're just taking it on because she kept reiterating it and throwing her shame back onto you. And so you've learned now that you have to abide by her rules. When are you going to stop playing by her rules and start playing by your own? You have to remember that. You have to start looking at who's the abuser, what was the game that they were playing with you, and how much control do they still have over you as an adult. And the better that you can access your inner child, you have the opportunity to tell your inner child, they didn't do anything wrong. They were a child. They have no reason to feel guilty. They were supposed to be taught and guided towards a self-assured perspective. Now, I don't know what your father wound's like, but this is very much tied to a father wound dynamic. Was this like a grandmother on your father's side or your mother's side?
My mother's side. And actually, my dad was divorced from my mom from the age of 3. And he was calling me only like once a year or once every 3 years. And he would maybe come to see me once a year or once every 3 years. He was pretty much like an absent father. And for a long time, I pretended I don't care. But I did notice that the abandonment wound is also another wound that I have that is manifesting, I would say, in personal relationships and also in business relationships, where sometimes I feel ghosted. And I think that has an impact in terms of like how safe I feel and how anxious I feel when, let's say, someone doesn't reply. And luckily, I had a very good partner for 14 years. And I think he has like an anxious attachment style, which makes him very similar to me. And that's why we gel so well. Like there's no feeling of abandonment to each other. But I think if I was dating a different partner that maybe would take like an entire day to message me back, then that would be like, I would be feeling so unsafe. So tell us about how can someone heal their abandonment wound so that you can create better business and life relationships?
I would first say codependency. You have to assess your codependency. So like how you just said, you and your partner may have this similar type of dynamic. Well, then I would assess how codependent are you with one another, because then it looks like you're both feeding yourselves based on a trauma response. So if I was in your shoes, or in general, anyone's shoes, when it comes to this anxious attachment style or the abandonment wound, I'd have to, again, reevaluate the relationship wound with mom. So abandonment wounds, not to say that father doesn't play a significant role with that, but that's a completely different conversation around that. I would then say, how did my mother abandon me? And what did she teach me when it comes to my relationship dynamics? What did she emphasize the importance in? Okay, so if she emphasized the importance that money is the highest priority, then I'm not prioritizing my abandonment wound the way that I need to be prioritizing my abandonment wound, which is like, I need to learn healthy connections. If I was in a healthier state of the abandonment wound, I would be looking at connection and again, discerning what types of connections that I want to have in my reality. So I would also know that if someone ghosts me, it means that they're not emotionally mature enough to show up the way that I need them to show up based on what I'm offering and what I'm giving and the value of the experience that I'm having. So I take that as protection. I don't take that as rejection. I take that as like, thank you, God. Thank you, universe. You are protecting me from someone who's emotionally dysregulated and unsafe for me versus someone who I know is going to come towards me and make that connection that I need based on value and worth. And there isn't a codependency here. There's a healthy dynamic in the connection. Most people do feel a sense of massive rejection and abandonment when they don't get all the attention and all of the validation and all of the approval that they're looking for something that they're creating or something that they're doing. If you're leading in your experiences, especially in business, or as an entrepreneur. You have to register that if you are leading with an abandonment wound, you are never going to land the successes that you need in your reality, because your byproduct is, and the foundation of how you're operating isn't based on soul connection. It's based on monetary value, your personal value, and a dysregulation in the relationship dynamic. Versus if you are someone with a solid foundation, a good sense of who you are, regulated within who you are, you know what your value is, you then again have the choice and the discernment to say who you want to work with and who you don't want to work with. And the universe is going to comply with that on a higher capacity. So you have to really reevaluate your low self-esteem. Low self-esteem kicks in because of the wounds and the abuse and like the feelings of the guilt and the shame and the dysregulation, which is very evident. So yes, see the therapist. Yes, get the help. Yes, do the integration work. Entrepreneurship, business people, highly successful people, they do the work. They show up every single day and they do the trauma work. They're like, I got to change this mindset. I've got to meditate for 45 minutes before I go on stage and do the thing. They have certain maybe rituals or certain practices that they put in place so that they're showing up regulated, grounded, and they're not looking at you to validate them. When people are very dysregulated and they have the abandonment wound, and I'm looking at this from the business perspective, can't make a mistake or do whatever I need to do, then obviously I'm not going to lead with success, because your energy, someone outside of me, is dictating my sense of self. And that's a problem. You're literally going to take it so personal. You're going to be like, oh my God, this is the worst experience. I can't believe I'm being rejected or whatever, because of your trauma. A successful person, a confident person doesn't even engage in that. Okay, that didn't work out. That's okay. Pivot. What's the next thing? They're not looking at it as like you're abandoning me or that I'm a bad person. And trust me, even with clients that I work on, if I'm sitting across from you, even in 5 minutes that I've had a conversation with you and I have to go at you, try to make it, and you're not being receptive, I end the conversation. I refund the person the money. This isn't for you. I'm so sorry. This isn't going to work for us right now. I can't give you what you're looking for. I think you need to go see a therapist, a grief counselor. There are other avenues that you can move towards. And that's sparing my energy, that's sparing my regulation, and it's keeping my inner child safe.
Tell me about what kind of practices or routines or habits or apps can someone use to empower themselves, aside from working with a therapist, to heal their inner child?
Well, I would say if you're ready to work with a shaman or a shadow worker, definitely move into that direction, especially if you've done talk therapy for X amount of years or you've examined your traumas and experiences. I think it's a great opportunity to sit with that type of shaman and someone who practices knows shadow work very well, someone like myself that will help you integrate your trauma no matter what. I do have a book called Embrace Your Shadows that's online as well, that someone can start the process. I've made it pretty easy for people to go, and it's a guide that can help you start healing and developing that language with your inner child. YouTube has so many free resources as well, guys. You could go on there and start just learning about what the inner child is all about, or just even meditating, starting today, a process of meditation where you're just spending 5 to 10 minutes. I don't personally use any apps. I've had my practice now for over 20 years. So I've been doing this for a very long time. And I have a lot of resources as well on my website and my Instagram and all that, which I'm sure you're going to link on this as well.
Thank you. Are there any ways to fast track the process of healing your inner child?
No. I would love to give people that. I think everyone wants the quick fix. I get it. But no, because think about how many years you went through the trauma that you did and who you are now and how you're still abiding by those belief systems. So I do think that it's a lifestyle change. It's no different than making the commitment to go to the gym to lose the weight, or changing your diet, or doing something better for your health. This is the same process. It is layer by layer, and it's your job and accountability to focus on all of the doing the work, holding yourself accountable to doing the work, especially if you want to be really, really successful in the things that you're creating and you're doing in your reality. So don't look at it as a quick fix. It's not going to happen. Could you implement the small little things that I talked about earlier? Absolutely. Even just talking to your inner child, validating your inner child, creating a safe space, whether physically in your environment or in your mind to a degree to bring your inner child, that's a great stepping stone. That's a great opportunity to start that process. And that will give you some relief at the end of the day.
Thank you. Tell us where entrepreneurs can connect with you.
So I'm ChristinaProkos.com. I'm also on Instagram, Christina_life_spiritual_. And I'm on YouTube as well. So you could find me just Christina Prokos. Pretty simple.
Follow me for more interviews with world's most innovative health change makers to live your healthiest life ever.